I got my idea to do this particular video as a result of my research into the slingshot catapults. It's just an interesting side thought that the technology which has provided us with the rubber for the slingshot catapults has also provided us with the rubber seals on kiln jars, and has therefore given us two great benefits. On one side of things, it's given us the ability to kill small creatures, and on the other side of things, it's given us the ability to preserve the meat from the small creatures that we go out and kill. But that's not really what I'm doing this particular little video about. I want to do it about language, really, and to be more precise, metaphors. We use metaphors an awful lot, but we don't tend to think in great detail or great depth as to what is behind the words that we use. There's all kinds of metaphors. Some of them are well-known phrases or sayings, such as, "It's raining cats and dogs." We normally assume that this is a reference to the weight of water which is falling from the sky being representative in this particular metaphor of the bodies of animals. However, the origin of the phrase is a little bit more macabre. It's a reference to the bad drainage system that they had in old London town, and the fact that during heavy downpours the dead bodies of animals would sometimes float to the surface and would be lining the gutter, thereby giving a much more direct illustration of the idea of it having rained cats and dogs. But are there other ways in which language has been used and or misused throughout history? Let's take the writings of William Shakespeare, for instance. Who out there has not heard the phrase, "the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune"? It, of course, comes from the Shakespearean play Hamlet, and is part of the soliloquy. Now, William Shakespeare was probably not an undereducated individual. He certainly was not an unintelligent individual, so one has to ask oneself, why on earth would he have chosen slings and arrows as being representative somehow of being attacked when one has reached a certain level within society? Why has he mentioned the sling? Why the arrow? We've all got an image in our mind's eye as to what a bow and arrow can do. You know, the archer can use his muscular energy, store it up in the tension within the bow, and then release it in one big go at the opponent, who, to the most part, will probably not be able to defend himself from the onslaught. So therefore the arrows represent being attacked, possibly verbally, from a long way away, possibly through accusation or insinuation. But what of the sling? Well, the sling is quite simple. It's just two pieces of cord, one of which has a loop at one end, and there is a pouch in the middle. But in the old days, the sling was probably the most feared weapon in the world. The reason for this was because anybody could have a sling on their person, and everyone was trained up in it to a certain degree, anything from the peasant children who would go out into the fields and into the woods to hunt for rabbits, right on to the shepherds who would use it to shepherd the sheep. If the sheep moved too far to the right, he would throw a stone to the right, thus bringing the sheep back on track. If the sheep went too far to the left, he would throw a stone to the left, thus bringing the sheep back on track yet again. So, it's something that most people would have had some knowledge of. During the time when the longbow started to develop in popularity, the use of the sling on the battlefields started to wane. It got less. So there was a period in history when you've got two different warring camps within the battlefield itself. You've got the arrows and you've got the slings. So, let's think again about that Shakespearean phrase. I mean, Shakespeare could have easily mentioned the cannonballs and the bullets, but he chose the slings and the arrows. Could he be saying that once you have reached a level of outrageous fortune, you would not only be attacked by one particular type of adversary, but possibly people on different sides of the spectrum. People from opposing political groups, for instance. This is what I feel William Shakespeare was trying to express when he used the phrase, "the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune."